It is 8:30, and we'll call the February meeting of the Parks, Tourism, and Economic Development Committee to order. First of all, we'll do certification of the open meeting law requirements. Jack, was everything sent out for announcements?
Yep.
All right, thank you very much. We'll do the roll call of committee members. If you could start us, Renee.
Lyon present.
Petrick here.
Sorgi here.
Whalen here. Do we have Jeannie at all?
No.
No Jeannie that we've seen on the computer at all?
She asked that we read her report. She mentioned an email to Lexi. I got it in front of me if
All right.
you want to read it quick. So update for Wisconsin Great River Road. Partners are attending the Chicago and Travel Adventure Show this month. A QR code has been created for visitors at the booth to enter for prizes. We will continue to work on our 2026 visitor guide. March has been set as the print and distribution month. We continue to gather information for our new website. She was excited about the website in the email, so kind of keep a tab on that. Regarding our new website, I'll be emailing a separate email to Lexi and Jack to submit Petrick Park events and events specifically hosted by Trempealeau County, example, music in the parks. I'm specifically contacting other businesses and organizations for now for their big events. I'll be in contact with Lexi and Jack for more information. We have a spreadsheet we're working off of at this time. Please don't want any confusion from emails coming from you and Wisconsin Great River Road. And then lastly, March 15th through 17th in Milwaukee is this year's Wisconsin Governor's Conference on Tourism. Information can be found at industry.travelwisconsin.com.
All right, well, thank Gene for that report. But with that, we will go back to the agenda. Next item we need to take care of is adoption of the agenda for the February 3rd committee meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda.
It's been properly moved and seconded.
Second.
We are close. We are having Richard appear, hopefully as soon as the highway committee meeting's over. We're missing Lori as far as chair and Richard. Jeannie, if she's full member, we're right on the edge of the quorum. If I did the math right, we'd make quorum. It just depends.
We need 5, don't we?
We've got our 5. Yeah.
We only got 4.
We got Buzz. If Richard comes, we'll have 5, excuse me, yeah. And he should come after the highway meeting, then we'll have our 5. Right.
Is that at 7:30, did you say?
He started at 7:30, so if it's an hour and a half meeting, he'll be here by 9, is what the goal was. So, next item that we have to look at is the approval of the January 6th regular meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at the meeting minutes that were sent out with the packet? Is there questions or comments or adjustments to those meeting minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes? Motion by Bob,
I'll second.
seconded by Renee. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those in opposition, no. Motion passes. Public comment is available. The call number is 715-538-1894. For the public comment, call-in phone number is 715-538-1894. Continuing on, we've already covered item number 7, which was the Great River Road update. Gene submitted that to us, and Jack read it. Number 8, communication and tourism economic development update with Miss Lexi Boynton. If you would please take it over, Lexi. And thanks for coming, Richard. You just made quorum for us.
I'll
I'll just share my screen so you guys can see the screenshots for our social media report. Just to note that this was only for the last 28 days, so it doesn't cover January in its entirety. The government page was up 5 followers. Our views and interactions were down, but there were also limited posts on the government page in the month of January. So just keep that in mind. And then the tourism page was up. I don't think there was actually any new followers on it, but the total followers gets a little goofy if people unfollowed and then refollowed. But we were up 30% on our views, and our engagement was up 68%. So then, yeah. We should continue to see that going up with a web series from MLK Day. Our team was brainstorming ideas, so we have some fun campaigns coming up celebrating America's 250th. So stay tuned for that.
Sounds exciting, Lexi.
That's neat.
The team's been working with Angela on the carbon monoxide grant. So Kevin and Danny are both helping film for a web series and then a social media campaign that will be seen on the government page. It'll be a weekly campaign for social with tips about carbon monoxide, and that is also helping them meet the requirements of their grant. And then marketing initiatives, we'd previously worked with River Travel Media, and they were doing blog posts. I will have updates next month, so we are no longer going to be moving forward with them. There is a slight issue with the way we were doing things in the past on our current government website. I can't do anything with SEO because I'm not allowed to change the hyperlink, which I can go in more depth later if you'd like. But right now, if we would link to any blogs, it says like blog 001, blog X1. I can't put the title in there, which essentially will lead us nowhere. So I'm going to be revamping that going into February to see what we can do until we get our new tourism website, which I'll touch on the tourism side. But for a little bit, I'm going to have to try and mess with something so that we make sure that it's actually going to be helpful for our social presence. And then these got a little wonky because I have a lot of updates for you on the strategic plan. But other things that we are still following up on or were completed over the last month, the social media policy, which I did print off and pass out to you, except for Richard. I have one for you. I'll drop it off in a second. So with this, I think we'll have to discuss more next month, but I just wanted to go over that. There were some questions about how we decide what we can post for the government and tourism page, and so I've outlined what we have been doing, and then I'd like feedback from you guys. And then after I get your feedback, I'll work with Susan to get it in official policy form. I've been doing work with the donation policy and Susan and making sure, especially for WTCO, that everything is aligned there. I completed the thank yous for the donations, working through our social calendar with Danny and Kevin, post tracking spreadsheet, so ties into the social media policy, but every time we do a post, we are tracking what we're posting about in which community so that we're not over posting in one area. And then the 2025 year in review reporting, I'm almost done with that. I know you guys want to see it, so that got pushed back just to finish up a grant, and that took some of my time away. But then we can move into the strategic plan. So I've outlined everything in an Excel spreadsheet based down by goals that would impact the communications department. Green items mean that they are complete or implemented. Yellow is what we're working on. And then there are a few items that I've highlighted in red that we'll need to revisit because there's a change in scope. So the first goal was establishing the communications department. A lot of this is complete. A few things I need to double check on, like this training sessions, hosting workshops or webinars. There will be one of those coming up because there's new laws if you're running a government page about ADA compliance, and any page run by anything in the government center will need to be following it, whether that's images, alt text, or emoji use. So I know there's a few other departments that have that, and I will be reaching out to them to set those up. It all does need to be complete by March of 2027. So I will be working on that with all departments. Digital tools, this is a lot of how our team is working together. And then social media, our content guidelines, crisis management. engagement rules, and regular updates. And then I've highlighted website in yellow because we have the tourism website coming, and then there's also looking to be a revamp on our government page with IT, but I need to connect with Tim on what the plan would be for that. And then that would be, I believe, getting done just like a revamp, so there wouldn't be additional costs, but I need to double check with Tim. And then our video production, this focuses a lot on WTCO, and Kevin and I have been working on this and watching it to get it more closely to align with this, but pretty much everything is on track there. And then our e-newsletter, so this is what River Travel Media was helping us with. However, I just want to make sure that it's worthwhile and we're not going to lose subscribers if we're giving them dead ends. And then our public relations goals are here as well. So we have that one. Then we have goal 2, which is enhance the internal communications and employee engagement. So the internet here, that's my tie-in for IT. The employee newsletter, we've implemented that. And then the staff feedback, I'm gonna have to work with HR on this one. I'm guessing they wanna be involved on that. So just highlighted red because I need to follow up with them. Then we go into goal 3, expand our external communications and community outreach. Our social media campaigns, those are in progress. They will be ramping up this year now that I've gotten adjusted to the role and can work with Danny more. And then those will tie into our videos. You'll be seeing more reels coming up. And then we need to address like the event and meeting promotion, interactive elements, etc. And then the website optimization will be covered in the tourism website. 2 more goals that impact our team. So promote economic development. We have that recruitment grant that was submitted, our business-friendly environment. There are some things I will have to work with Becky on that I want to see how we can move those forward to make sure that we are providing like a database to our small businesses and businesses within the county. So this one will be coming up. I don't have much to report on now because it's a lot of like behind the scenes work. That is going back down. And then, this one shouldn't have been in green, so I'll have to update that and then I can send it back out. The economic dashboard, integrating our resources from SBDC, SCORE, WEDC. This will also be highlighted, I think, on our new tourism website. I need to connect with Pilch and Barnett if we're gonna have an economic development section on there. From the other websites I've been reviewing that they've helped with, they've had an economic development section that also integrated that on there. And then partnership pages and collaboration and promotion. And then the last one, goal 5, promoting Trumpealeau County as a 4-season tourism destination. This was a lot of the brand work that was done with Pilch and Barnett from the GEM grant. And then I need to get with Corporation Counsel on any contest that we launched because there was an issue with some in the past that she wasn't aware of. So just to make sure that we aren't going to get ourselves in trouble with how we are going forward with those. And then it is on the plan this year to launch virtual tours. So Kevin and Danny would be going out and doing some of those scenic drives. And then we could be able to post those on our website and on our YouTube channel. And then the events calendar, we currently have these broken out by week, but once we decide on our tourism website, we're hoping to have that on there. It would be working with businesses that they would need to submit their events. Right now, Danny and I are the ones going through and pulling everything off Facebook for those weekly calendars. And so we're gonna put it on the businesses or the groups that if they want something shared on our website, they're gonna have to fill out the form. But we will be in communication with them before we would change that and work with them so that it'll be an easy transition. And then I also highlighted our geo-targeted campaigns in yellow because we will need to set a policy in place for that. Also probably work with Susan if we're putting money behind any ads to make sure that we're ensuring it's fair so that if we're only promoting one Rod and Gun Club event, we would have to in turn promote them all. So just a lot of things to get moving and working to make sure that we are covered and that we are remaining neutral on how we're promoting.
Any questions or comments for Lexi? Becky?
Well, I'll just piggyback kind of off of Lexi's work and just want to thank her because she's been working hard on taking what we did previous on their strategic plan and really focusing on that and how she's going to implement that. So I think that's great work. A couple of things on the discussion that you'll be talking about on our tourism website. I just think because I wanted to kind of touch on this because I've experienced this in another county, is that the question about, is the tourism website only there to promote outdoor activity? Or is it to promote businesses also that attract people to the area as a part of the outdoor activity and things, right? And blending that. The difficulty becomes, who do you promote and the how often, like Lexi's talking about. If you don't promote businesses, that's kind of what we're trying to do, is to build that. And I think, from my viewpoint at least, is a rural area, we don't have a big convention center, a big, huge chamber that supports all of us here. And so that's why I think partly of what we're talking about is supporting a communications team, is that we're benefiting the businesses in our area. So I'd like to see businesses supported, but it becomes difficult too. And so that's why we really need to have good, strong parameters from the committee in saying this is the way we're gonna roll it out and stand behind it, so that if there are people, because there will be issues, right, or complaints, or we wanna try to be fair, but you can never be exact, completely. And when we've gotta look at what are the big generators of business in our area as far as tourism, right? And so some of those businesses are attracting more tourism-related things. So that's part of that conversation. But I also wanted to just talk about the economic development piece that Lexi touched on. Were you going to talk about our upcoming task force?
Yes, that's
You
in
are.
the tourism economic development agenda item.
Okay, very good. Okay, I'll let you do that then, and I can just chime in when you do that.
Okay,
I do have a question, if I could. You were talking about content for the government webpage. Now, who will be monitoring that? Do you monitor that? Are you able, when you determine what is going to be acceptable content and what is not going to be acceptable content?
well, Renee, let's tie right into the social media policy that I forgot to jump back to.
Oh, okay, well, I didn't want to jump ahead on you, but,
No, that was a great reminder. So that is the packet I handed out to you.
okay.
So I'm thinking this will probably have to be an agenda item so that you guys have time to review
Sure.
for like the next meeting.
Right.
I do have the government one on the last page of that handout. So currently, the way we are dividing out what's going on the government page versus the tourism page is the government page is intended for the people who live in the county. So if it's going to impact like their day-to-day or anything that the courthouse does to support people from the community. So the guidelines we have, it must be in Trempealeau County. Currently, the second bullet, events that are found on Facebook or the event organizer had submitted their information, that is what we're pulling our weekly calendar from. So we are checking every community on Facebook and their events that they're having, and then we're putting them on there. But we also post the library events there, nonprofit events that are fundraisers or benefits. We're sharing chamber events on there, noting that's just information for the residents again. And then farmers markets are on this page usually. And then we're also highlighting all of the departments at the county, road closures, and then PSAs. So anything that Danny wants to post on there or that I see, we have a social media calendar, and then I do review those before they're posted, just to make sure it's meeting our branding guidelines and then also the guidelines above. And then if we do share an event, we are not sharing them more than 1 week prior to the event, so it's not taking away any paid business opportunities if that business or group decides to promote themselves separately. Does that answer your question?
Well, yes,
little bit.
partly, but we had, this issue was brought up in the past, and it was just on the WTCO page, it's politics,
Yeah.
political posts. I don't know if we have a policy on that. And that might be questionable as well, what constitutes campaigning, what doesn't. But I'm just wondering about political in general.
Okay.
I don't
will-
know if there is a school of thought of what we want to promote here on the government page. I would think there would be, but I don't know. Maybe we have guidelines to be more inclusive than,
I'll come back with that for
Thank
next
you.
month. The only political thing that I know that is coming up would be just like a reminder to vote and then meet your county board candidates. So,
I'm talking about not necessarily things that people ask you to post, it's comments.
oh,
And I don't know if you have control over that.
I cannot. So, if we're gonna dive down that road, this is fun. I cannot delete any comments unless it is suggesting violence to community members, people in the courthouse, or to the building. So, there will be like a notice going that any comment you make is a public record. So, if you're commenting and you delete it later, we already have a copy of it. So, we're monitoring that. If someone's gonna comment, I cannot control what you say, and it's not reflective of how the county feels. So that is also just noted whenever you're posting your own personal beliefs. It's your page and it is a public record that can be used later.
Thank you.
There is a discussion that Susan and I have, if we turn off comments, if we do that, we're gonna lose engagement with people if they have
Right.
questions. City of Eau Claire had just turned theirs off recently because they kept getting a lot of scammers and then just a lot of spammy comments. So they just turned them off completely until those scammers left. Right now, we haven't had any issues with that, but hopefully we don't. I can't control what other people will say. Yes, Bob?
Would it make sense, for more viewing on something like this to include like township meetings and city council meetings and stuff? Because sometimes if you don't read the newspaper or go to the post office, you don't know when these, council meetings are, or, town board meetings or stuff like that. I mean, your people are gotta, if you've got a page like this, utilize it.
And one,
Government page,
Government meetings, yeah. I mean, like,
cover government.
the
And I don't know what
township
your-
meetings and
I don't know what
city
your
meetings.
staffing is, but I kind of agree that that might be a good idea.
But it would be up to those, though, to contact them and let them know.
Yeah,
To
but
send the
make it
information.
available to the
make
townships.
the responsibility.
I think
Announcement.
it's just like you're talking about with the tourism piece, like they're responsible
Yeah.
to going to the calendar and put it on, not you guys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that would be good for agendas, because if, your certain topic is coming up, I know for me, Town of Lincoln, I had to trace, got to go to the post office to get the materials, and I'm not a member of that town, but I wanted to go to that meeting to get the agenda. It'd be a great place to distribute it and get that information out, because when big things happen, that's when you want to be at the meetings.
Okay, we can look at that. We could always do a pinned post too on where to find that information if people aren't submitting it so that some communities aren't just left out on that. But, yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I just have two more quick comments. Excellent report, by the way. Will this, your spreadsheet be available to us? Are you going to share that?
You want which spreadsheet?
What you just shared.
Yes, I can share that one.
Okay, and one more comment. I'm really excited to hear that Kevin and Danny are going to video the beautiful landscape of Trempealeau County.
Yes.
It's just, to me, that's very, very exciting. And I'm sure it will be with a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it'll be a great way to continue on the YouTube page, and then that'll be on WTCO's channel, and then also have some reels to highlight that, so.
Is that going to be a 360 like they do the virtuals in lacrosse? They've got the 360 where basically they pivot the whole area, so it is actually a virtual tour. Are they thinking about specifics like that? Because I know those make huge impressions, those 360 tours.
I'll bring it up and see what plans they have.
Yeah, I just guess, because the one that they've got in lacrosse is really cool when you could do those and you can actually
That's
see it
okay,
like
that's
you're
the
standing
comment,
there.
But I'm wondering if that would be under
Okay.
advertising again. I'll have to bring that up after, because I know there's a question.
Go ahead,
We were
Richard.
just talking about golf courses. Would they be included in something like that, going out and doing a tour of the golf courses that within Trempealeau County?
Some of the toughest holes would be an excellent tour as far
Yeah.
as the toughest holes of Trempealeau County. And then you get comments from people who play them, because every golfer will tell you, oh, that number 2 on Whitehall is a tough one as far as going along that river.
I think, and we've got beautiful courses.
We do.
I didn't have that on my list, but we can add it and see how we can get that in there, and we'll try and work with them.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Good idea, Richard. That's excellent.
Okay, going back up, or flipping back now to our tourism page, and then this is the one that I would say probably needs us to take a little bit more attention. So just noting that I have that document again about when we're posting and who we're posting about, so that we're keeping consistency. There does need to be some understanding, though, that during specific times of the year, we might see more posts in each part of the county. Looking at the Centerville area, you have Eckers and Ferguson's. If there are apple orchards in the northern part, I do not know about them. So, but like, something in that we need to keep in mind, that if there's not an apple orchard up here, I can't post about it, but there are them in the lower part of the county. Also noting, just like Perot and Trempealeau National Wildlife Refuge. Oh,
There's an orchard just south of Osseo, I think it's called Prom King. Apple orchard, but also it's right on the county line is the blueberry farm, I think it's called Bemis Bluff. That's right on the county
yeah.
line north of Lima.
It's up on the ridge there.
Yeah, that's Eau Claire County. They had a lot of issues with their licensing, because Eau Claire County has fun licensing with wine. That's nor here or there. But just something to keep in mind too with Perot, we only have one state park. It's down in Trempealeau. Petrix Park will be highlighted, and then we have the Strum Trails that we can highlight. But looking at that, our tourism page must be in Trempealeau County. If we want to make exceptions for that, that'd be a policy we'd have to make, and probably also reviewed by Susan to make sure that we have something that makes sense and that we're thinking about all aspects. It must involve outdoor rec or agribusiness. So biking, walking trails, scenic trails, fishing, kayaking, canoeing, paddleboarding, camping, cross-country skiing. Also noting snowmobile clubs, ATV clubs, and then conservation clubs is down below. So we can share, if we want, any graphics from any Rod and Gun Club sponsored events, those conservation groups, farmers markets, church dinners, town festivals, and then the Trumpealeau County Fair. So again, I am monitoring all of these requests and approving them before they're getting posted. We have an internal social media calendar that we work off, and those are reviewed on Wednesdays and Mondays. And then these events will not be shared more than 1 week prior, so that we're not taking away paid business opportunities. But then also noting that this is more so going to be for our tourism website, but a free business listing open to all businesses operating in the county within following categories. So attractions, dining, lodging, rentals, outdoor rec, shopping, and services.
Bless you.
And there is this website form that I found that I think makes a lot of sense. And then they would be filling this out themselves as well. But they would be marking like what general amenities they have, their accessibility offerings, so people would be able to search those on the tourism website. And then also leading into like when they're open. So don't pay attention to the paid part of that, since we are not accepting money on this, but every business would be able to fill this out as long as they fall into one of those categories, so that we are not getting inappropriate adult categories that we would be sharing. Just as a general policy, it has to fall into something that would be bringing in tourism on these. So. And then they would just get like a little thank you note about thank you for adding your business to our website. And that information would provide valuable information about our county's attractions, lodging, restaurants, shopping, and more prospective visitors. So. Looking at having that for sure on the Trumpealeau County website, or the new tourism website, and then we can intertwine that into some of our Facebook posts.
So this is your proposal, you mean?
Yes, this is the proposal I have for the committee. I will resend it. I know Becky wants to connect on it, so there might be some changes. If there are, I will follow up via email, and then we'll have it on the agenda to approve something for the next meeting.
I think for discussion too, I think if we just wanted to discuss a little bit right now, because I would throw out there, when I read agribusiness, that's great. could this potentially, because there are businesses that are attraction businesses that bring people also, that are not agribusiness, so just a question about that. For instance, the Cooley shops in Galesville, those are quite an attraction from people in the La Crosse area that are coming in through that. Of course, the Norski Nook, right? And so, I throw that out here to the committee and kind of considering what do we, is it only agribusiness, or should we be thinking about other opportunities? Then, I would also share that the following events, like, we should really narrow that down. Again, we're looking more at how we're attracting people as a tourism piece, right? We're attracting people from outside the area, so I would say, the church dinners. I don't think the I don't know if you'd include the farmers markets or not. I'm just thinking about how, what is shared, what's, yeah. Anyway, just for discussion, I guess.
That makes sense to include like your business places, because if you've got your mindset on one thing, say you're coming from out of town for a wedding or something like that. Mom, what else is there to do here?
Exactly.
Because you're looking at things to entertain people. The biggest thing is you get them here. It's like no different than our ice fishing contests in Independence. The Rod and Gun Club brings them to town. What the town does with the people is up to them.
Yep.
And that's a good example, and I don't know what category that would fall into, probably sports, but that has been a legend in its own time, the Independence Ice Fishing Contest. And then, of course, we're talking about Osseo. There's a whole lot of Norwegian heritage influence there and businesses that really make it a really unique place to visit in the summer. In fact, you have to wait. There's lines to get into the restaurants there. They're just nationally known. Well, what was her name? Helen. She was on the David Letterman show years ago. That's aging us. But she makes pies. She made pies at the Norski Nook, and she was on the David Letterman show making pie. And so it's a pretty big attraction. I don't think there's a lot of people that go there just for the Norski Nook. But anyway,
Could we substitute in business instead of agribusiness? Would that be too open if we say just business?
Right, that's the question then, are you gonna advertise every
true.
gas station and, right, and so where do you, that makes it a little bit difficult, so,
So
Where do you start, where do you stop?
correct. That's
That's
the
where you
question.
stop.
and that's-
essentially, the requirement I have is if I post about one winery, I have to open it up to posting about every winery within the county, or at least offering to post about them. So if we're gonna do one restaurant, we have to say, hey, we're posting about this restaurant. Please let us know if you wanna post about your restaurant.
Yeah, but to me, it's beyond just categorizing a business. A business is business, and to be fair to all, you'd almost have to open it up.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna have issues if you don't.
Then
So
we're
that's
also,
maybe why you do keep it to agribusiness then.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see more promotion of businesses within Trempealeau County, because I know that a lot of them do excite others outside of the county and brings them to our county, and then a word of mouth goes from there. So I think in my mind, the way to do it is open it up to the community, to the businesses, and let them decipher whether or not they want to contact you and be part of it.
okay.
That's just open for thought, you know.
It's just going to be a tremendous amount of work if every business wants to be involved, Lexi.
Yeah.
If we don't limit it, you're going to have, and if we're capable of handling it, I don't have any problem with that part of it. The problem I have is when we do start putting the divide down, that somebody's going to say that the county's biased to one shape or the other.
I would like Susan's input into it,
That would be excellent.
Corp Council.
Either that or depends how much time and labor would be involved into this. You could highlight every town every 2 weeks and include your business places in that town section of, business places or what they offer and stuff like that, just highlight the name and what kind of business place they are. But I says, just attribute that to each community versus just random, you're gonna have, say, an apple orchard or a knitting mill or something like that. But like I
So
said, I don't know how much, involvement it's gonna be.
we've thought about that, and then it comes down to, in the fall, if Trempealeau's not on that list in the fall, we're missing out on promoting those. So, I mean, we can build our calendar that way and making sure it's that way, but then we're gonna run into issues with communities getting mad when they're posted. It's a kind of a horse apiece. I think if I can create a plan and get businesses on board with it, and we can get their feedback, it could work. But just things to think about from you guys. I appreciate your perspectives.
But the communities do have some seasonal scheduling, the Blair Cheese Fest is gonna be, in the fall, and the fact that Arcadia Broiler Day is gonna be around Memorial Day, and then, there's a natural rotation as far as what ones could be highlighted, because we're gonna be attracting people to that area, and that might be able to be put into a schedule.
Yeah.
So-
So on that note too, we'll have to think about Ashley for the Arts and if we're promoting that, and how we promote that. So, just some things to keep in mind. I will see if I can snag Susan before our next meeting to get some of those legal questions answered, but otherwise, after we have more discussion, I was planning on meeting with her. So.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other questions on the social guide before we jump, if I'm allowed to say that, to the
I
next?
You
just
can.
would have one comment, Lexi, this is Buzz.
Hi, Buzz.
We have a plethora of community fundraisers where people do come back to the community for those. I think using fire departments, various things around the county. And, the breadth of this thing just keeps getting bigger, it looks like. And I guess I agree with folks in the room that if we're going to put sideboards on, we're kind of picking and choosing. I guess I kind of like that idea of not so much seasonality, but let communities come in with their events, or putting some of the responsibility back on them to get you some of this information. This is what we're really trying to generate. And they happen across the seasons, obviously. And so just doing 2 weeks a year probably isn't a great idea, because things change seasonally across the county.
The other thought, or with that, we do have community fundraisers on the government page, so up for discussion if that should be on the tourism page, but.
I think on the government page makes sense.
Okay, I will
And
come
it's
up,
going to be kind of limited to the people in the county on the government page, right? I mean, all these communities, we have our sons and daughters and nieces and nephews that if they got word of some of this stuff, a lot of them will want to come back to those home communities over the course of the year. And I don't know, maybe they just Google search it and
Well, I
the
think,
government page comes up or something, but we want to make this easy to get people back in the county.
I think though that you're seeing the locals seeing the information and they would be talking about it to their families, or we hope they encourage their family members to like the page so they can keep up on things, right? We keep growing our following, but
Sure.
yeah, I think that ultimately the biggest impact is on local for that piece.
Is there a link from, say, the tourism page to link directly into the government page and vice versa?
there's not, so those pages have different audiences. Our government page is for
Right.
people in the county, our tourism page is focused for people in
Got it.
Chicago, Green Bay,
Sure.
Minneapolis.
Right.
Got it.
I mean, there's no guideline on what you can and cannot follow, but typically if I'm gonna be targeting something, it's targeting to outside of the county on the tourism page.
But couldn't you put a link onto it? Because if you're in Green Bay and you're like, oh, geez, I want to go to Gillsville Days or something, when is that? So they can go on to a link and look when it is?
So we do share the county pages, or like the county events on the tourism page. Like there's a post for each town celebration during the tourism one. And then we're posting a calendar this year so that they'll see it. But we can link to the tours or the government page if they want more localized events. I can put that on there.
Bob, did you have a comment you wanted to make? Okay, I thought you were talking when it came up. You'll do it at the end? Sounds good, Bob. Anything else, Lexi?
Not for communication.
Not for communication.
Okay, jumping into tourism, economic development, the visitor's guide. So I had requested a quote and samples from Supreme Graphics for a 4-fold and a 6-fold. Unfortunately, my contact was out sick, so I did not get that back from him. But when he had quoted me on the most expensive paper, it was $5,000 to $17,000, depending on quantity, for a 4-fold, and that was at 100-pound paper. I requested that we go back to 70-pound or 80-pound paper. The difference wasn't crazy from the 100-fold. It was a little bit less stiff, but knowing that it's a pamphlet, typically they find their way to the trash at some point. I don't think it makes sense to go with the highest quality on that. If we were going to move forward with this visitor's guide map, which I guess I need to fill the rest of you guys in. Lori had messaged me about changing to a visitor's guide map because our visitor's guide book did not get enough advertisers. There were about 10. We were at a third of the way to meet the $40,000 to be able to produce it, so we had to cancel it just with timing. So we were going to be looking at changing to a 4-fold map. That would start off as an 8.5 by 11 and then open up to 4 panes or 6 panes. We were looking at that some examples. I'm working with Supreme on printing. If we worked with them, we would not be able to get it out until mid-April. And that is if getting more advertisers would work and make sense, and we'd have to work on pricing. But along with that, there's also an obstacle because I don't have an account set up in my budget to receive any money for this project. So when budgets were due, in order to be able to accept money, I would have had to have submitted that. We were still working with Pilch and Barnett during that time, so I did not. So just a few things on that. Lori did propose working with WHTL and for them to get the ads. We met with them yesterday. But it sounds like that is also going to pose some challenges. So Lori had suggested that it would be done by March 1st. That's not realistic because that's in about 4 weeks. Printer needs 2 weeks, and Buzz and his team would still, or not Buzz, Butch and his team would still want about 2 to 3 weeks in order to go and get those ads and then to design something, and then they wanted to create a pricing structure. But that would have bypassed us taking the money. So there's kind of a lot going on with that
Can you
one.
explain that again? I'm sorry, Butch and his team,
They would have been taking
who's
on
Butch?
at WHTL.
Yeah? Yeah, that's what I
Lama.
thought, but I must have spaced out.
Lori suggested working with them in order
Okay.
to get the money, or Becky suggested it. Someone did. So a meeting was set up to see their thought process on it. And if they would be able to take on going to get those ads, and working with businesses in the county in order to buy ads, and then they would be putting it together.
So it would be, yeah, because he
Yeah.
has his own,
So we don't know. So
Yeah.
that would be more of a, instead of the visitor guide, it's the open up map, which, and then it has ads on the back and around the map.
sponsors. and-
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And then, and so the timing piece though is just, because
Yeah.
we were waiting on the visitor guide piece and now we're it's tight. And so, Lori wasn't able to join the meeting yesterday, so we're waiting to see, is that, because she knows the market for, getting out advertising and such to a lot of the campground stuff. And so I was trying to connect with her to say, is the March 1st deadline a hard stop? Otherwise, do we have a little bit of leeway to get into mid-April that we could work with a group to put this together and do all of that? So we're trying to figure that part out yet to see if that's a possibility. Otherwise, it might be, that we don't get something like that created this year. There was just not enough, I think businesses were a little bit hesitant on just spending this year, that they felt they needed to be a little bit more, or hold back a little bit, so.
But I think this is, oh, I'm sorry, Rich. I think this is a good idea. You're getting
Okay.
sponsors, which is really good.
Yeah.
And WHTL, they're very well acclimated to doing that kind of thing. And it's advertising for them too.
Right, so they would organize they have digital, they have Steve there that would do
Yep.
the creation of the map. They'd get it printed for us. And then we'd also have radio ads incorporated, so we'd get local advertising for things happening. But again, it's just the longer time period that they need more time to put together. What do those packages look like? How much will it cost? How much do we need to charge for the advertising? You know, like Rich was saying, well, how much? We don't know. That's where Butch was saying, well, we needed more time than 2 weeks.
Well, in April, the April dates,
Mm-hmm.
is that kind of a in the stone kind of thing? Could it go to May?
Well, right, that's where I need to follow up with what Lori was thinking, because Lori gave us first March 1st, which that doesn't
Well,
work.
I would imagine the seasons, people start looking and,
Yeah, but
making
we have a lot of fall. The piece is that placing visitor guides and such, like at stops and things like that, you have to buy that, and that's what we've done in the past. We bought last year locations at stops, so you gotta have those placed and bought early on, right? And so I don't know either if that's too late or.
I have our spots reserved. I haven't paid for anything. But it was also reserved at a, like, page booklet, which this would fall into. They are looking for an answer, I think he said by February 12th. If we are gonna keep holding those spots or if he can sell them to someone else.
So in an ideal situation, March 1st, but this might not be an ideal situation we're dealing with right now.
that won't
So we
work.
got to see what compromise we can develop as far as dates. And I know you just have to talk to Lori and see if we can still fit in the scheduling. Is that what your question is
So-
right now?
Lori's proposal wouldn't be at any of those spots. She's proposing only working with the campgrounds, and that's why she wanted it by March 1st. I think it would tie into her advertising. I think there'd be things to consider there about preferential treatment and campgrounds, considering we have other private campgrounds. But it would be an option if we were going to get that word out. And then when we were doing the visitor's guidebook, that's when we were paying for additional spots at those rest stops and working with visitor centers.
So how can we help you the most as far as for this decision, Lexi, is where I'm at?
That is a great question. I feel like there's a lot of relationship rebuilding that needs to happen. So I went out briefly to help try to sell some of these ads for the book. And businesses were either mad it wasn't being printed in the county, which I was like, we are going to have it printed in the county if we can get the ad support. Or they were mad because they didn't find out, or they didn't get a copy when they placed an ad last year. And they don't know the reach. And so there was a lot of frustration on that side, and then people were frustrated about the price. So I don't know if businesses are gonna buy into this one, not knowing the pricing structure. Bob?
Realistically, is this in the early stages?
Yeah, since we had to go back to cancel that other one, I would say
Okay.
we're back to the beginning,
What if we
essentially.
would work at taking our time instead of doing it half you-know-what
Yeah.
and bring it out in October or November? Because then you would be shooting for next year already. I hand out a brochure or a booklet from a county up north that I reside at. They mail me 2 cases of books a year, and that usually comes out like the 1st of December, you know, for the year. So I mean, instead of rushing into this, well, we forgot this and forgot that, wait till fall, because we do get a lot of people that come to the county just to look at the scenery and the colors for the fall color tour type of thing. And you get a lot of people, our county is basically known for monster bucks, because there's a trophy whitetail behind every tree. Just ask anybody that doesn't live here. But I mean, if we would look at that instead of rushing into something.
I don't think that's a bad idea. It would be able to tie into the new tourism website that won't be ready until late summer. We could use that as a selling point. We would have that business listing in there. Personally, I think that would make more sense. We could work with our businesses. I could continue to work on rebuilding those relationships that just aren't there. The trust is lost. We need to build that back up before we're like, hey, give us some money to put this in here.
So I've got a question then. I like that idea, but do we go back to the visitor guide then in trying to get the visitor guide done? And like putting some data behind it and putting the reasoning behind it and going back to that? Or do we stick with the map? Just a question, I don't know.
And my bias would be to try something different, because we've already left a bad taste in the mouth with that pamphlet that was expensive. Go to the map, and then we can build off the map, is what my opinion would be. Knowing that I use that pamphlet a lot, and when I'd pull it out at Newcomb Valley, I could get a lot of people looking at it when we were going through it. But we do need to get it that people can see something, you know, and if we're gonna shoot for the October date, hey, we got a lot of people coming in here for the deer hunting, a lot of people coming in the area, we can get it distributed and out. I don't like to do anything in the half situation that Bob was displaying, especially when it's everybody's money that we're spending. You know, I don't want to do it poorly. So I'm in favor of the idea of delaying till the October, but also to go with the map so it's different than what was bad previous, because they're going to associate the pamphlet with being too expensive and printed out of town. And I ran into people that wondered why it wasn't around here also for printing, not just businesses.
Do you have any idea at all? You must be thinking of a dollar figure for an ad. What,
For the page, for the map.
correct, correct.
Map.
For the maps.
Would be a reduction, right?
Yeah, it would
Significant?
have to be. I mean, 1,800 was a half-page ad, I believe, or a full-page ad on a booklet page. So there were other options on that, 300 pages for a text listing. I think it'd be something we'd need to go back to, and also just keeping in mind that we have a lot of small businesses, and keeping affordability into that would make sense.
With today's technology, like with this map, like you've got up here, as a businessman, to do a mock-up and just have one or two copies of, you know, just say, they're not even advertisers, but pick 3, 4 business places from each community, do a mock-up of it, so when you go present this to a business owner, they've got something to look at, instead of, you know, just a hand-drawn pencil thing.
Yeah.
Or just taking a copy of an existing from another.
I was just gonna honestly cut apart old ads from our last one and glue them on the layout we were expecting. I'm sure I could come up with something a little nicer, but I think that'd be a better idea as well.
Lexi, does all the money that we're charging for the ads go right back into printing and distribution?
I believe so. I wasn't involved on that money side of it. So Pilcher and Barnett was working on the book. They weren't charging us anything. They were taking care of the money, paying for the printing, paying for the design, etc.
Okay, I think obviously,
Yeah, if we were going to be doing it again, we would not be making a profit on it. It would be to help cover printing expenses and distribution expenses.
yeah, I think as long as people clearly understand that too, the relationship building is a tough road to hoe, so to speak, for you to, they left with a bad taste in their mouth. Just relating back as you've laid it out seems like a very positive way to get this started.
Yeah. I can go back through the 2025 guide and look at those packages and what people bought, and maybe I can bring some proposed pricing for the next one, or to the March meeting, or April meeting.
All right, that sounds like a good game plan, and you have the suggestions you needed, Lexi? You
Yes.
feel comfortable now?
Yes.
All right, that's kind of what we're looking for.
Okay, I'll try and buzz through the rest of these real fast. So,
All right.
River Road Visitors Guide, we submitted our ad for that. I've been attending meetings for marketing and then just that in general. Our tourism website, work will begin in February. I am meeting with Pilcher and Barnett later this month and they will be coming here to start the tourism guide, or tourism website work. And that is also kind of where we touch base on the promotion of business or only outdoor rec. I do feel like on our tourism website, it should be all businesses as long as they fall into one of those categories I listed previously with lodging, shopping, dining, etc. The AARP Community Challenge Grants, they are due March 4th. We are going to be working with Galesville and Pigeon Falls to be submitting grants with them. I will be writing the grant for them. If they get the money, they will be in charge of implementation, and I would help them through that. Housing study, so there is work beginning on this. Just to know, Becky, I think this is where you want to chime in, that there is a request for a subcommittee. Becky requested that yesterday in the exec finance meeting. Do you want to say anything else on that one?
Sure. So I did talk to exec finance about this. Lexi and Hannah McKeever and I met recently. Hannah is the new UW Extension CDI extension position for UW, and so she's working community development. She and I and Lexi have talked a little bit already before she got on board, and I've talked with Sarah about initiatives that we'd like to work toward, and we've talked a lot about housing and childcare needs across the county. I've had a lot of discussion with schools and such, and we're working on a lot of those different issues, and also with city administrators and mayors. And so we decided that it was really important to have, I guess when I say we, I talked to again, city administrators and mayors about what should we do to continue to move this forward. And we're talking about setting up then an advisory group, a task force on housing and childcare. And then this group would be comprised of different individuals from across the county that we would start meeting in March. Hannah has already previously put together a housing study for Vernon County. That's where she's coming from. And so I asked her, could you put that together for us? When I'm talking with leadership across the county, they do feel that that would be a help to them. Developers still want their own study when they come in, but they also ask, right, what data do you have? So Hannah has already started compiling information. I've given her all the information that we've already done, especially on the child care front. And then she's compiling census data and looking at where our needs are across the county as far as housing and child care go. She's going to put together a survey that can be sent out across the county so that community members can give their input and where they see issues and problems across these two issues. The task force then will start in March and will be the kickoff to that survey. And they will, we will come together at that group and talking about the data, and then also looking at how other counties or communities are addressing these two issues, so that we're bringing best practices forward and talking about what's being done. And then that task force will do that through about June or July. The survey will be completed at that point. The housing study will be completed at that point. And then we'd like that group to bring forward a recommendation to the county board by July or so, talking about, you know, here are some options for addressing these issues. And then we'll have the housing study and that survey to help lead us as well, and the county board, to help lead the county board. So Supervisor Larson is a part of that as the exec finance. I've asked him to be on the task force, so he'll be a part of that. And then kind of representatives from throughout the county in north, middle, and south.
So just knowing that Hannah is doing a lot of the educational work on that in the forefront to get the information that we need and to get that out. And then I will be working with her on distribution. We'll be going to schools to see if they can add that into their monthly newsletters to be able to get them to take the survey. And then we'll also be doing focus groups together. So that will be coming up. I think focus groups are in April.
Sounds like a great plan.
Yeah. Hannah's very great to work with. And she has a lot of background, so that's really helpful for me.
Sounds like the teamwork is developing well, Lexi.
Yes. Okay, any questions on the housing study before I keep going? No? Promotional videos of the county and areas to explore, so we're planning that. We're looking at Kevin going out with the drone with a couple of locations, especially down in Perot Park. I'd like to get some drone footage down there. There are some requests that we have to make in order to have a drone in a state park, but we're working through those. Then quarterly business meetings and a newsletter group. So I'm putting together quarterly meetings that we'll have for all small businesses or business owners within the county, just trying to get their feedback, get feedback from them on what they need and what they want to see when I'm looking at grants. If there's something that I find where I'd be able to accept that money as a broader, and then we can open it up to the group. So Vernon County did micro grants for all of their businesses, and they had 4 categories, and that's something that I'm exploring to see if that makes sense for our county. And then the Make My Move grant, that was the talent recruitment grant. I submitted that grant on the 30th. I am meeting with them next week and we'll continue moving. They are going to be developing a section on their website devoted to our county. Once they have that, I will share it. And then additional tasks that I don't have updates on or I will be working on this month. So outdoor rec, our water trails, drum trails, the Trempealeau County Music Series, working with Jack on Petrick's Park Enhancement if we're going to be doing any posts on that, and then continuing work on the bike trails. I will also be working through GEM Grant Year 2. That is due in May, so that's continuing on from our tourism work that ended, I believe, at the end of last year, or in the middle of last year. Working through the county app, so I still need to meet with Tim and Susan on that and see what next steps are there. Bike trails, as noted, the Trumpealeau County website redesign, and that is for the government page, and then tourism signage for the Great River Road.
It sounds like sense. Any other questions or comments for Lexi?
I don't think there's any question. Lexi has a lot on her plate.
Definitely.
And so I'm just really thankful for her organization, and I think we're headed in the right direction. So thank you, Lexi.
Thank you, Lexi. Energetic girl, right?
All right, as we've concluded the communication, tourism, economic development update, we will go on to agenda item number 9, park and outdoor recreation priorities with Jack.
Thanks, Kevin. Just give me a minute because I've got a few pictures for campground pricing. We'll just kind of start with that. Something that just needed to be addressed after Chair Severson's comment. So she was wondering about the 3-year pricing approval. Went back and found that it was November 2024. So we're gonna keep going forward with that for this year, but my plan is to reevaluate in 27 regardless. And the reservation fee went from $5 to $10 per reservation. So it kind of sufficed the plan. And then these are just some images of some stuff I've made at Canva over the course of being here. Cloth shelter, daily pricing for RV sites are there. And then just that Ashley and daily pricing plan. Got a guy on site 1 that we might be working with, so might have some more details later for that. Do we have any questions about the pricing? I think I'll probably come back with whatever our pricing is gonna be in December 26th of this year for what our 27 plan is. But just kind of wanted to touch on what we discussed last meeting.
Did the site seem to be working well as far as the pricing when it went in place this year?
Yep. Other than we did have a little hiccup, so I'm definitely glad Erica was in the room with me. She made a valuable call to customer service, and we got a hold of them. Ashley sites went pretty well. We sold all our RV sites like anticipated. With some higher rates, we're at a similar, revenue total as we were of all of last year. So it's a good movement, and anything else that we sell, I think we've got 32 sites left in overflow at about 270. It's just additional. So we're going to keep reevaluating that. There's stuff we can do in terms of like adding sites. So having Jeremy in the mix now, some of that will be a little bit more attainable. But then, no other questions on pricing. It will be Ashley week. We went forward with, hey, we're just gonna do a week. People are here for 3 to 4 nights. You can get there when you want, or you can come the traditional 3 to 4 nights. Some people dropped off their campers. We had about 20 or 30 units, you know, like on a Sunday, then they come back on like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So just kind of opening it up. It also helps with traffic flow, so not everyone's coming in to the park at one time with only one entrance. Natural play area. We've got another item next with Winona Community Foundation, and it's an exciting step to start to maybe work with a nonprofit so we can get a Friends of group going. So I've been making some calls, doing some table tracking, got like 4 to 5 confirmed interest, and kind of reevaluating how I'm going to be asking those people that I think are yellows that maybe be interested, or my red categories, and trying to either meet with them one-on-one or address it through phone calls. But it really will be great to start working with some of this stuff, because this Friends of, I titled it Friends of Trempealeau Valley Recreation. That title's still up in the air. It could be Friends of Petrick Park. But my idea with that is I want to address recreation countywide. There's things in the strategic plan with parks and trails that a wider kind of reach for our Friends of group is probably a good thing to have, but first starting with this natural play area and kind of building off of that momentum. So we've got a facilities and parks department now. So I've been working with Jeremy extensively over the last couple months, and it's been great to have his opinions on some financials, his experience with purchasing. So it's been a smooth transition so far. We're addressing things both have busy schedules, so we're addressing things with highest priority, addressing things at the park as well. So we've been planning for entrance signage, the road and parking lot we've been discussing, and then Jeremy's gonna touch on some things regarding the entrance signage and LPR. But Bob, you had said, hey, in the past, we typically just close the gate when it's wet. So we did want to address the plowing aspect of it, so I learned the plow controls on January 21st. So I'm gonna try to get out there as much as I can after we get a snowfall to just plow that entrance road and that parking lot, and then we'll probably lock that gate up when it's considered wet season. So that's kind of the plan for the park and adding the camera. There is 3 different units that those got approved, and again, Jeremy can talk a little bit more on that. There's gonna be dollars available for capital improvements for this year that were approved. So I don't know, Jeremy, do you wanna say your piece?
Please excuse my ignorance too on some of this, as I'm kind of learning some of this stuff with Jack and trying to work with Amy, who was doing the financials for this department prior, and then trying to see all the stuff that's already been set up and trying to keep all the ducks in a row on that. So just a few things to touch on real quick. The park will go to the camera. There was a point of contention earlier when the phrasing license plate reader came out. This camera is not the same as what law enforcement uses. They use a system called Flock, which is one that is attached to like a database. So if it takes a picture of the license plate, it gathers information. This does not do that. This was plain and simply, if a vehicle comes in, takes a picture of the license plate and stores it in case that vehicle did some damage, where it's easier to track it. If it's still a point of contention, that's fine, because that's just a feature that we're able to shut off, and then it cannot be turned back on without written request by the county. So as it sits now, the cameras are still good to go in. I spoke with them yesterday, and it looks like they'll probably start getting installed next week. That's where we sit with the cameras right now.
Is that something you want us to mention to people, that it's not a flock camera? Because there's actually a website on Facebook tracking the flock cameras in Trempealeau County.
I'm aware.
You are,
and
all right. Just
that
making
is-
sure you know.
That
if
is
you want us to say.
the reason why I'm specifically calling out that this one is not a flock camera. If someone asks specifically, or if it is a question, it can be brought up. But like right now, the camera that's there is not flock. It does have the ability to take pictures of license plate, but from speaking with Corp Counsel for right now, that feature is going to be turned off. We'll still record. It's still a high-quality camera. It'll still capture video of all the cars coming in and out. Plus, when we figure out the placement of all the rest, the ones that are in the shelter, the ones that are going to be pointing towards the lower area or the maintenance shed. And then right now, we'll kind of be a habit that we'll log into those cameras on Monday and see if we notice any damage. If the caretakers are there during that season, if they notice any damage, then we'll go back through the video footage and try to figure out what happened, maybe who caused it, and then escalate it to law enforcement if required from there with the security footage that we would have. Jack also spoke to some capital improvement funds that were set aside for this year. So going through the budget, the full board did approve. There's $20,000 set aside for, it's listed as play area. So whether that is adding new playground equipment, repairing what is there, but that's a discussion that we'll be having going forward, because most of these are going to require either purchasing or putting things out to request for bids or request for proposals, depending on what they are. There was also $75,000 set aside for Park Road repairs, and now whether that is that we're just going back in and, again, once me and Jack have a discussion, then we bring it back here. Whether it's going back in and bringing dirt and gravel, or we actually speak about putting blacktop down on the parking lot in front of the restrooms and potentially the entrance road, if that's what's being plowed during the off-season. That way it's easier to be plowed, people are still able to get in, and maybe it's not so much of a concern as a wet mush season at fall and spring. So that'll be a conversation that him and I have, and then bring to you guys for conversation. There's another $25,000 set aside for facility updates. Now, whether that is something that we look at upgrading the lower shelter, which Jack has been looking at doing for a while. Another thing that seems to be on the agenda going through notes is the septic system out there. There was a study, was it last year or the year before, done that the size of the septic system out there was sized for about 18 camp spots, which you have more than that right now, not including the overflow sites that you do on the week of Ashley. So, and then I know during the week of Ashley, you do have portable units come in that helps offset that, but they were having issues with the septic system last year too, either plugging or backing up and stuff like that. So that septic system's gonna wanna be looked at this year too. That funds can be set aside for that, and whether it's a basic repair or just an upgrade of the system to increase the capacity, since the capacity is there to have more people. You may not always be full, but kind of got a plan for it to be full just in case. I also was going to try to reach out to potentially, and I'm thinking it might be the Elk Rod and Gun Club would have been responsible for the canoe landings that were put out like at Cross Road, and then the one up here just past the healthcare center. I want to try to get some information on that, because I do know that we have a dock that was put in. My question on that was, though, it was still an ADA compliant dock. So technically, we're giving someone the ability to get into canoe if they're disabled, but I'm not exactly sure where they're going to get out if they get in at Petrick Park.
It would have to
Because-
be Schultz Park in Arcadia.
Which there's
working
a
with them.
potential, but there's nothing there yet. So essentially, they'd get in at Petrick Park and then they're stuck until Perot. So maybe just a different landing, something else. So again, these are a few things that I've touched on with Jack, but we haven't had too deep discussions. This is me just floating through all of this stuff, trying to figure out what's going on. Again, trying to figure out with this natural play area, that's fine, there's a cost involved with that, and then I'm trying to figure out what's gonna be the additional cost that we're gonna have to add to the parks budget every year going forward for the maintenance that goes along with this, because you're gonna have mulch. And if we're doing a natural mulch, well, that's every year that's gonna have to be replaced. If we're doing a rubberized mulch, well, that's more expensive up front, but you still probably only have an 8 to 12-year lifespan, depending on, and then it's weeds. And then, so if we're gonna focus the caretakers out there instead of mowing the lawn and putting 20 hours a week in there pulling weeds, that's a significant investment into that too. So there's a few discussions I'm gonna have with that. Same as if we do the natural play area, that a lot of that area needs to get graded. So one of my thoughts is to kind of push as much as we can, legally as close to the railway as we can, to try to create kind of a berm to maybe potentially help limit some sound that may be coming in, as well as tree projects that he's looking at for this year. Finding appropriate trees for the soil that's out there to help, again, create some sort of privacy between the highway and the park, along with the berm, if that's possible. A lot of this stuff are just notes and hopes and planning stages at the moment, and I'm just trying to keep the board abreast of what we're looking at right now. The horse arena. So there was a discussion that with the rodeo, that area gets kind of packed down quite a bit, and that's not really safe for horses, this and that. Here at the courthouse, we have a four-wheeler that we use here for spreading salt and plowing sidewalks and whatnot that we use here, that we use that during the winter. During the summer, we normally store that away. So my plan is right now to get a price on just getting a horse drag for that arena that's built to go on the back of a four-wheeler. We would just transfer the four-wheeler out to the park during the season that it's needed out there, and then use it for whatever whether it's a campground host, which is a conversation we'll have, whether it's the caretakers that are out there during the week, that we can drag that area to kind of break up that soil to make it safer for the horses or the bulls or whatever it is that's going to be out there at the time. Another conversation that we've had too, again, goes back to that natural play area, because Jack and I went out to look at a replacement parking area, because that is an area where you're looking at putting that is where most of the vehicles park during that Ashley for the Arts. So if we were to relocate a separate parking lot to the other side near the horse arena, stuff like that, if we put a natural play area there. So that's something that we're looking at as well, but then you're gonna end up losing some of the overflow spots that you set aside for rental during that Ashley for the Arts weekend. Plus, I know the few years, especially last year, it rained quite a bit during Ashley, and I think a lot of that kind of turned into a bog out there, at least down at the park it did. So there's quite a few things that we're looking at, quite a few things park-related that we have that I'm hoping to have a more structured update for you guys next month. Jack's gonna be gone for a portion of this month into next month.
Yeah,
for
I
some-
might attend online. I might be able to.
I
get
just
mine.
want to
We'll
sit
see.
down with him and try to get some things squared away before he's gone for that time, because I also don't want to blindside him when he comes back, because the plan going forward is I probably will attend these meetings from time to time, but Jack is the Parks and Recreation Manager. He'll be the one that gives the updates. He'll be doing the day-to-day stuff, the financials, the project planning, the requests for bids, proposals, all that stuff will originate with me through him, and then if there's an update required that he wants me to give, or if I feel it warrants a little bit more explanation for the committee, especially probably with the May meeting, because there's potentially going to be new board members at that point after the elections in April, so that everyone's kind of has an idea where we sit with a fresh start. I don't have anything else at the moment. I'm sure you probably have questions for me, though.
Did you want to touch on entrance signage at all?
Oh, my bad,
Yeah.
yes. So I know that we had brought some proposals here 2 months ago for some signage stuff. I still have those specifications written down. There was a separate request put in to add some tweaks to that, so I'll have next month's meeting. It was outside of this committee that put a request in, so there'll be kind of two separate proposals that I'll bring to you guys to kind of show you what we're going to be putting out the bid. And it's not a huge change. It's not like a structural change of the sign. It's just the size of the sign and then some the verbiage that would go along with it. So it's nothing outside of the norm, but that is still something that's in the works, but again, it's nothing that we would be doing next month anyway, as long as I can have this, something for you guys that we'll put out for request for proposal, probably by mid next month. Gives it a 2-week turnaround on that, and then we schedule work to get done in May, something like that. And that's what I'm shooting for. But there's also no funds set aside for that specifically anywhere, so that will also be either trying to figure out if we're gonna be taking it out of some of these capital expense funds that, like this facility updates, whether it's septic system, lower shelter, or signage, or a combination thereof. So it hasn't been forgotten. It just wasn't the priority at this point in time, just because, as we discussed the last time, you're not really going to be pouring. I prefer not to pour the concrete and try to put bases in during the winter if we can avoid it, so.
I have a question, speaking of finances, and maybe there was an answer here, but the Knowles Nelson grant, I'm wondering where that is right now. The last we heard from Staff Schultz, I think he kind of gave us some ideas that this is not a concrete plan.
That's the next year of awards.
They've already
So
got this.
everything from this year that was already given a tentative award letter, I can't say 100%, but, you know, it's 90-some% sure
So what
that it's
when
gonna
he
go
was talking,
forward.
it wasn't about the one that
It's
you.
the one that's gonna be, yeah.
Right, it was the
proposed.
future one, as he said, the future of the Knowles
Okay.
grant was what he was saying was in jeopardy, but it is improved as far as the political situation since he spoke to us.
Okay, thank
It
you,
has
because I got the
improved.
definite impression.
Yeah, the
That it
impression he
affected
had.
this one, but that's improved, that's changed, that's,
It's bipartisan and a hot topic right now and will continue to be based on what I
I'm
have
talking about this year's
gathered.
grant.
Yeah.
So it's a hot topic and still in discussion.
It's a hot topic, I thought, in regards to next year, how they're putting out next year's Knowles Nelson offering and how they're awarding those grants. From what I understood with talking to my grant contact, that's money is ours and it might be May to August when we get a formal letter.
Thank you.
But I can, try to get some reassurance there. I think that might be
He was just pretty negative as far as what was going on, but it was the future of Knowles is what he was referring to. That was the nasty that was coming out. We should be good.
And then since you guys brought it up, I did have a thought on that as well. So like I said, I know I've had this discussion with Jack as well, that Knowles grant is earmarked for the county. There's just not it's not a paper on his desk that says it's 100% awarded yet, but it doesn't seem to be in jeopardy.
No.
My question on that is, though, that the total cost of that natural play area was X.
804,
And the grant covers
804,000.
half. And that's what I think Jack has this set up for the Friends of Petrick Park, if we're looking to take donations, which is another conversation I've had with the administrator as well. But I also need to speak with SRF because I don't want to commit to start that project if we only have half of that money. And I know that we're also in not a gray area, but we're in a conversation with the Schenck family with that particular parcel of land where that was supposed to go. And there's supposed to have been a certain date that something was supposed to happen since we were taking over that land. So once I have an idea of the total cost of that, that's going to be another conversation with SRF and then you guys, is if we start this project with the grant money and then we stall out as we're waiting for donations. And maybe donations will occur quickly and we'll have all the money that we have, but I also don't want, as a phrase that you put earlier, half you-know-what, project built in the middle of the park that won't really attract people until it's complete. So there's quite a few things, quite a few questions, and again, some of this stuff started with Reed, moved to Dave, moved to Jack, and then it moved to me. So I'm not trying to break the mold, but I'm trying to get a clear answer and a clear picture of what's going on so that we have a straight line going forward instead of stalling a few things or only starting and not completing some things. So again, that's what me and Jack are working on. That's the stuff on my plate. And again, we've been touching bases for the past few months. I've really been trying to focus over the past month, but it's also, I'm still only able to give about 30% of my time to this at the moment as we're wrapping up this construction stuff over here. And as soon as that goes to the wayside and we get back to a sense of normalcy here in the building, then I'll be able to devote a little bit more, right around the time that Jack is coming back, so.
How much more money is needed to match that grant?
So it's gonna be 402,315, 402,315. And the total for just the natural play area and its items is 804,630. But this is coming from Phil's perspective when we wrote the grant back in May 25. Things change. So taking all that into account, what's not in the grant that we can address through now is kind of, I think, a big like focus area of how we're planning and thinking about things.
And I haven't read the grant either yet, all the way through, just to know, like, if we get awarded that grant, we have X amount of days, months, years to spend that money on something else too. So that's one of my other to-do list items, is to flip through that, so.
You did mention to us, what is the timeline? Is it within 2 years? Seems to
Well,
me
I'd say timeline, we're looking at 2027 in the spring, if we're getting a letter from May to August, because it's gonna be pushed back, but we can maybe be more focused once we have a formal letter in hand, for sure. And address, hey, Tom, this is, or Shank family, this is, hey, the formal letter, we're gonna get going.
On our side then, of that 400 and some thousand, how much money have we appropriated?
So we have some money already set aside, that's for the park specifically that
Park
we've
Reserve
talked about.
Fund.
There's been conversation about some of the money that has been aside for economic development funds that we've used or set aside. But also there was the conversation of possible donators to that and where we end up with that. So I think once we have all of this kind of our thought, or at least one earlier conversations, I don't know if Jeremy and Jack have talked more, but is to package it so that we have a clear plan of going forward, and then we can and talk to individuals that might have interest.
Yeah, and there is money that I've worked with Amy about that's set aside in a separate account that I did touch base with her this morning, and I can't remember the exact amount, so I'm not going to say it on record at the moment, but there
Right.
is a certain portion of money set aside for that, but again, it wasn't the entire 400 or something like that. So it's just, that was, you know, I've seen across the country municipal projects that have started and then they stall when the funding goes out, and I just don't want to be one of them with a half-built project there, because it does look like it's a nice thing that would attract people, but I just want to make sure we're 100% in before we take a shovel out there on day one, so.
We need that letter from the
Yeah.
state, and then that would help us really move forward. Yeah.
Any other questions for me at the moment, or? No? Okay. If,
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank
Yeah,
you for your
thanks, sir.
time.
Maybe I think you touched on it, though. You were talking about parking, the parking for the Ashley for the Arts, which I think is a very important thing. Have you nailed down, not say the natural area park does happen, that of course gets rid of the parking for the Ashley for the Arts, right? For that, in that area?
It would, well, and that area is where the parking lot is pretty much set up.
Where would
That
it
I've
be?
seen, that I've seen in the past, that's in the area that it's set up. Now, if we went, we'd have to go more north, but it's kind of where you're, like, closer to that horse arena area. But again, that's where you have overflow spots set up. And these are all just spitballing ideas at the moment, and it was trying to go out there when it was snow and slush at the moment to try to get an idea, because this was a winter question that I brought up. So that is a spring thaw type question, is when we get some actual square footage set aside, that if we had to do it this way, this is where it's gonna end up going.
I'm happy to hear you talk about that, because I think that's a very important concept to keep in mind.
I guess with our parking, that should be the least of our concerns, as long as we take care of our campers. I says, we're just providing a service to somebody. I mean, we're not making a dime off of having Joe Blow come and park their car there. I said, that should be the least of our concerns.
I was talking about Ashley for the Arts.
That's what I
That's what
mean.
he's discussing.
Oh,
Because we
We don't make
park for
money
their
on
busing.
It's Ashley that comes in and basically, since
Oh,
it
it's
was
the parking,
Shank's
the
land
CIDs. Got it,
before,
got it.
it was agreement between Shank's, us, and Ashley.
Okay,
But
thank
now
you.
it's kind of a gray area.
Yeah, and that's, again, a different, same conversation, different outcome. So that's, once we kind of figure out where we're going, then we make a choice at that point. But that's upcoming, so.
Plan and adapt, for sure.
Anything else for?
Thanks. I don't think so. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for the time.
And then continuing on, snowmobile actions, next month I'll have a resolution for our maintenance grant and funding for the other half of the County NN Bridge outside Osseo. So that bridge is adjacent to the Buffalo River State Trail and does receive some multi-use recreation and kind of a connector to the city of Osseo and their football field that might have some ATV funding eligible. So want to make that bridge a priority, and the maintenance grant just allows the clubs to do their volunteer work. So just wanted to address that quick. Should be a pretty simple resolution. And then other park updates to mention, I didn't get a response from that Blair Alma transmission line resolution that I sent over to the Public Service Commission. I can let the committee know if we do get some type of response.
They've been having a lot of activity over there as far as on the southern route. There were 2 trucks there last week going through for surveying, so
Okay.
there's some hot activity on South Route.
Good. And then did rescope the year 2 of our startup urban forestry grant. So we were planning to plant the trees within the project site, but instead, with learning about the timeline, we're going to go with a fall planting throughout the whole park. So we're going to address that tree barrier along the highway that we've talked about previously before, but trying to address it with some bigger trees. And then whatever is kind of left, I've got 2 areas in mind. We need to address a variance with our new horse site. So some white pines kind of along that Savannah Oak area was my initial thought, but I'll be working with J&B down River Valley Road for all of this. And then possibly by where we plan to relocate the Majidak. So this was Abby Krause's response with DNR Urban Forestry. Basically, we just have to stay in line with reimbursement reporting, and before we start any work, we'll just need a planting concept map and a species list. So my target was 40 well-established trees throughout the park. So about 10 trees per species, and we'll kind of share once we have a better idea around March, April. But yeah, and then the rodeo stuff got moved to next month. Unfortunately, it's a bigger conversation there, a lot to rope in. So we did move that to March. We want to make sure whatever we are proposing for next year, we're good on our side of things in terms to the stuff that's in the document, what I'm going to be requiring from the rodeo group, and kind of the new process of, thinking about the arena's original intent and having it rideable for horses. So Kevin's been a huge help in that, and he's working with, talking with Dave Taysom, who's got some experience with rodeo stuff in Arcadia.
And basically what we're looking at is giving you guys levels that we can take that arena to. Here's basic, if we just want to have 9-year-olds riding their horse in there and doing a barrel pattern, up to the fact, here's when they're holding events. The surface area you can take to different levels. There's actually all kinds of materials you can look at. The big thing we have to look with it is adding sand. That's the big thing to get it to be and that'll help as far as the compaction. That'll help in a lot of ways. Originally, it was put up and it didn't have an ideal surface area. It needs to have some improvement to do not only the rodeo as far as for the groups coming in, but also for use for the 4-H group. We have a rural active, the Lincoln County 4-H, or Lincoln 4-H group is real active, and they're going to be using it with quite a few people. So we want to get that surface up to a safe and desirable surface. And we got some good ideas, so that's what we're working on.
Yeah, Connie Guza has been a huge help. We had a meeting on January 16th with the rodeo group and her. So just, working with her, she had the idea of, hey, look at Wildcat State Park in Ontario. So like trying to emulate a couple sites based on that. And there's a whole equestrian group that look for horse-type sites that they can ride trails on. So it'll take a little bit of time to, I think, get it to where it's all kind of put together, but it's a good kind of a area to focus in for the park, where there's already some history there. But yeah, and then I just have some revenue numbers, if you guys wanted to take a look, from Ashley Reservations. Made a good amount. Water and electric site, electric only, overflow, tent sites. There's some that we just open up for Ashley, and there's some that kind of are normal 40 throughout the year, but made about 21,000 in revenue in about 8 minutes, so. This is the map. You can kind of get an idea. Those green sites are up to question. Basically, I have 32 overflow sites, and if those don't get filled, those green sites won't be needed. So, last year, overflow was filled, and so I added those green ones. And they're just call-based if camp spot fills up. So,
Jack, there's no trails to lead us side by side from the park to the city, correct?
right, that's a bigger conversation between getting a trail to cross from Cross Road to there. I know there's one family that wants to have people come in, shoot trophy bucks, so I don't think they're gonna allow a trail to go through, but maybe, with, different trails, like having some type of restriction on when there can be accessed, you can think about that type of ad.
To get to Arcadia by trail, you not only have to come in that backside, but we're limited from the junction of North Creek Road on 95 to Quick Trip, because you don't have a UTV trail until you get on the other side of like Wamedy State Bank there. Then that's all you can ride side by sides on that side. But there's a part right there where the township is, the town hall for Arcadia. That section, they haven't started enforcing restrictions, but we should try to see if we can get that, especially for Ashley, for the arts. That would make a run all the way to the park possible.
Oh, yeah, that would be, yeah.
Because you'd go the back way and then you just hook up on the River Valley Road, and then you take that over to North Creek and you'd have a route. But that's, needs to have that approved. And that's a DOT state.
But how are you gonna get to the park to North Creek Road?
That's the challenge.
So
That's-
crossroads, but that's still quite a distance for
Yeah,
this,
it is.
yeah.
A
You'd have to
little
apply
over
to the
half
state.
mile, yeah. Maybe closer to a mile.
What if we were to look at contacting the state to get approval? They do approve,
I mean, I've heard of rails to trails stuff, but there's not like really a railroad that goes through that part. It would have to be getting like something similar to like our land use agreements for the snowmobile trail. It would have to be something similar to those.
why couldn't you take Crossroad 93 and go hit the park? What is that, a mile? How far is that?
Maybe a mile and a half,
Mile
2
and a half.
miles
Yeah.
at the most.
Jackson County, they just allowed Highway 54 to be traveled quite a distance there.
Oh, sure, you're just talking about, yeah,
Yeah,
for that section.
correct,
We just have to get it approved.
yes. But I think you should work on that.
Okay.
And then coming from the other direction, you could cut the distance down to maybe a half a mile was coming down County Trunk Double X.
Yeah, yeah. The only issue there would be people coming from well, I guess they could get around Double X that way too.
Yeah, because I know, like in Independence, our city streets are open, you know, and they go up County Trunk Q and then say shoot down, we just call it Grell's Dugway. And then you pick up Double X and,
But if you hit Double X and then go up where, over to Rainy, or you're gonna hit
because Double
County
X,
Trunk A, or what?
Double X comes out right by Ed Malashewski's.
Right,
Yeah.
but then where are you gonna go from there to get into the city?
Well, I
If-
mean.
If they don't allow.
You know, what I'm getting at is the park at least. Otherwise, the only way you could do it is if you just followed that all the way around and get up. You can go over the, Double X goes over to Wajni Bouch Road, and then you come out in Rainy Valley.
Right, right, yeah.
And then Rainy Valley's right there by Arctic Springs.
But either way, I think you
Meadow
need to
Springs.
start looking into that.
That's a great thing to look into with trying to get that maybe going and approved before, say, like the water trail opens up. Because like that's 2 planned ports on the water trail. So yeah, that's a great thought, Rich. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got for park and outdoor recreation priorities. Mandy's been waiting so patiently.
Yeah, I'm kind of concerned.
I
We
got one
probably should get to
question
that.
here for, you know, when you went with your deposits and your payment, have you eliminated check blanks so that you're just on a credit card so we don't run into a problem like last year having bounced checks? At least if you got a credit card, if there is some damage, you got some security there. You can add it to the credit card.
Yeah, we're thinking about that for our approval item for next month. Everything that we've discussed in the committees in regard to the rodeo, and then trying to get some good opinion from some people with experience. I'm gonna try to build, and that meeting on January 16th, I'm gonna try to use all that input and feedback and, you know, build the correct model with our large gathering special event permit, so they're liable for their security deposit. Like that's the plan, is trying to rope all those things into that document.
But one of the things you run into it are liable, but are you gonna see payment?
Yeah, I mean, they have to.
Everybody's liable, but I mean, if you actually see payment.
Yeah. There's gonna be a few more rules that the group's got. And, you know, thinking about a horse site and working with Connie, I want both kind of things to be equally valued. Because I do think both of them are important for the park. So we're gonna have some type of message board. You know, rodeo group can have some Spanish language on one side, and then horse group can have all their messaging and legal stuff on the other.
Getting back to the side-by-side, utilizing 93, I would suggest that you talk to Neil over
Yeah.
at the highway as well. I know that he's working, or at least he's involved in a section of 95 just out of Blair to get over to the River Road.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
I,
All right. Anything else?
I think we better get Mandy on before she
Yeah,
leaves.
before she leaves. All right, well, just gonna introduct kind of how this came to be. I don't know if we gotta say the item, Kevin, or are we good to move on to item 10?
You bet. We'll go to item 10, Petrick Park Enhancement Project with Winona Community Foundation and our special guest, Mandy Olson, with discussion, possible action. You can take it over, Jack.
Okay, so on December 1, I kind of sent out a mass email like I talked about for friends of who I thought were park and recreation stakeholders within the county. Coordinated a meeting. Mandy somehow got a hold of, luckily I sent it to that Trempealeau Parkland group, and Mandy got a hold of the email, gave me a response, said, hey, this is something Winona Community Foundation might be interested in, and was very happy to see that email because it was kind of something that we had talked about doing for a long time. So then provided kind of an overview to you guys last week and said I was going to have her here. And basically, we talked about a kind of the overview, which hopefully you've seen. She's going to go over a little bit more. And then there's a special purpose fund that there's 1.7% interest that Mandy will speak a little bit more on. But basically why this is important is for that Friends of group, it's kind of our easy button, like implied here, where we can focus on fundraising strategies, which we've also talked about for the natural play area. So it's kind of a leader in trying to connect all these dots and have a group that can be used for starting with the natural play area to multiple initiatives that we've deemed important at this point. So we've got a outdoor recreation plan that's going to be due starting next year. So we'll see how things kind of progress. If we can get this group, I've had, some calls and some table tracking, like I said, and I think I can get there in about a month or two to have a good group and have a meeting out at Petrick Park in the springtime. But yeah, so this is kind of would fall, right in line. And my recommendation was to start the first payment, do the quarterly option, because we don't know how things are going to play out at the price of $125 starting April 1st, meaning that first payment wouldn't be due till July 1st. And again, this would be so fund can set aside, gain a little interest, and that's a whole, conversation in itself. So I kind of outlined these things on why this would fall in line. So the Friends of group starting to meet, around that April time maybe, and then fundraising, internal funding, and design discussions will hopefully, be done and concrete by June so we can put out the project for bid December 1. And then approving that funding to be transferred from a Trempealeau County where it's sitting to something else needs exec finance committee approval. So that is something I think we should consider as a committee. Let's hear what Mandy has to say, and then these are kind of these things below are kind of some of those other ideas, those connectors after the natural play era. So Mandy, thanks for sticking with us this whole time. And if you could share how the Winona Community Foundation could help us out, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jack. First of all, thanks for having me. Again, my name is Mandy Olson, and I work at the Winona Community Foundation. I was born and raised in Galesville, Wisconsin, so go Trempealeau County. Parents still live there on County K between Galesville and Trempealeau. And we frequented the state park, of course, in Trempealeau County. So it's exciting to see some work and initiative going behind the beautiful assets that Trempealeau County has to offer. As Jack mentioned, I think I was accidentally added to an email or something. And so I just reached out to say, hey, the Winona Community Foundation, we manage charitable funds. That is the main work of what we do. We have about $19 million in assets, and of that asset base, it's in about 129 different funds as of the end of 2025. And so the goal here was the Petrick Park Nature Playscape area. That's kind of what I understood it to be. And so I reached out to Jack to say, hey, we do this kind of work with the city of Winona frequently. We've been a long-standing partner with the city of Winona here in Winona, Minnesota. Their projects or their relationship with us is usually project-based. So, this is Petrick Park Nature Playscape area as a project, of course. And so City of Winona usually has, what ends up happening is they have a group of well-intentioned citizens who are interested in improving something in the city. So more recently, we have a group that is actively fundraising to replace some old tennis courts and turn them into pickleball courts. And so this well-intentioned citizen group wants to fundraise. The city of Winona says, okay, yes, you can fundraise, but please work with the Winona Community Foundation to open a fund designated for that purpose. And then that group does their fundraising, that money gets added to the fund. Usually those projects last anywhere between, I'd say, 2 years to up to 6 years. Sometimes fundraising isn't as easy as they thought it might be. And then, the city of Winona is able to complete that project. They request the funds out of the fund within the community foundation, and then we close that fund. This model is a little bit different and actually makes me a little more excited. I kind of wish the city of Winona would consider this, but for whatever reason, they have chosen not to do a friends group. But yeah, I know Jack's vision is a Friends of Trempealeau Parkland, or excuse me, Trempealeau Recreation. So it'd be an ongoing group that maybe the first project is the nature play area, but then within the comprehensive plan, as he was mentioning, they might tackle other projects as well through fundraising efforts. And so like Jack mentioned, I consider us the easy button. You wouldn't have to worry about all the paperwork involved with the 501c3 and maintaining the status of that. If there's a person on the Friends Committee that's the treasurer, they have access to an online portal to see money coming in and any interest earned and the like. And they can always ask us questions, of course. And then, and yeah, I think that we could be a good option for you. Again, we kind of make it easy. The committee can focus on the fundraising and the implementation of projects and not necessarily the paperwork involved with receiving gifts and the like. So with that, I'll take any questions. I can also give, more specific relationships we've had with the city of Winona if you would like.
I guess I'm
Can't
thinking
see
that we
anybody.
have, I'm sorry, I think we have some questions to how this actually would play out.
Okay.
So you're in Minnesota, we're in Wisconsin, but you have a group that might be interested in Trempealeau County area recreation. This is I'll call it the satellite group, the fundraisers, other than the city of Winona, that would be administering this. Who would be administering it?
We provide just the back end support. We can also be a resource. If people have questions about things, like, for example, we have a gift acceptance policy where we can accept a little bit more complex assets. So, we can take the brunt of those conversations with donors. But the committee itself would be leading the fundraising. And then the county ultimately would be leading the project, it sounds like.
So they would go in and solicit.
No,
The
because
committee.
it reflects in
Sorry.
what a bastard.
Oh, that must be something else, huh?
Yeah, Beth is signing in for our next meeting. 7 minutes, we gotta be done.
Are you still understanding it? I mean,
I just,
put your, yeah.
yeah. I think the question is, what we're not understanding is exactly what do you offer? What do you do? What's your part?
They manage the fund.
Huh?
So we would open a fund with, we are a 501c3 ourselves. And so we have
There we go.
129 charitable funds. And so we would open a fund that would be, the purpose would be Trempealeau Recreation, I guess. And the beneficiary would be the county, Trempealeau County. And so when, the committee's out fundraising, a lot of people at the higher end are going to say, I want a tax benefit for this. So when they donate to the community foundation for further benefit of the fund, we provide all the receipting that they need for that. We also take care of all the IRS paperwork at the end of the year. We're audited every single year. So none of that would fall on the committee. We could simply report out to them. They wouldn't have to worry about that. And then ultimately, the county of Trempealeau would request dollars out of the fund for the designated purpose. So at some point they're going to say, we need $200,000 out of this fund for the Petrick Park Nature Playscape area. So they just make that request. We do have a little bit of a process. It's not like hard or anything, but we do have to get our own board approval for those grant requests. And so then the money will go out and do good work for Trempealeau County. The other benefit that I see for your group is, as you're trying to establish this committee or this friends group, like you don't know if it'll be successful yet. So instead of again going through all that paperwork of obtaining a 501c3 right now, you can be under our umbrella. And then long term, if the group is really wildly successful and they want to manage everything themselves, we encourage people to go out and become their own 501c3. We do a lot of incubation here at the foundation for small nonprofits. Otherwise, if it doesn't work out, we can just simply grant the dollars out to Trempealeau County for whatever purpose, recreation would be the purpose, I suppose, and close the fund, and you don't have to do anything else, like the dissolution clause part of a 501c3.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, much clearer now. Thank you, thank you.
I've worked with a foundation similar in the past. It's a really good option to manage all of that piece and the piece that it's really hard for us as a government entity to collect the funds or keep the funds.
I think it sounds good.
Yeah.
I do too. I think it
What's
sounds
step
great.
2, Mandy, as far as what would the next thing that we'd have to do if we wanted to work with you, Mandy?
We have a standard agreement, and I think Jack had included it in your packet.
Right,
I would
we got it.
recommend a special purpose type of fund that's attached to the government. So we would just have to finalize that agreement, basically. And then I think we require a $1,000 deposit into the fund to open it up, and then it'll be online, and people can donate online, or they can mail in donations, and we accept them at our office and deposit them accordingly. So it's really quite simple. I guess I'm trying to think. Oh, I guess I would need my board approval. We meet monthly, the fourth Tuesday of the month. So if you guys want to move forward, you guys would have to, obviously, whatever your process is, say, yes, we want to agree to this agreement, and then I'll bring it to my board, and then we would finish getting signatures, basically.
So it would be early enough if we did it in March, the agreement, so we'd have it on an agenda item for you, Jack, as far as,
Like in Trump, I think that's what she's talking about, is phone lady.
I recommended April. I mean, we can move on it whenever, but I think there's some other things to consider.
April's fine,
you
just
know?
so we keep the relationship developing is what I'm working on.
Right, but I think she needs some type of, hey, we're interested, because she's got a board to report to as well.
Let's do a quick survey, see if we
Can I
can.
ask a
Go ahead, Lexi.
I'm just curious, is there a cost associated, or
Yeah.
you just do it on the kindness of your heart?
No, there are fees. And there was 2 types of funds that Jack and I discussed, and we did decide the special purpose would probably make the most sense, and it is a lower fee. It's 1.7% annual fee assessed quarterly with a minimum of $125 per quarter. So the minimum overall fee for the year is $500. And I don't know off the top of my head what balance you'd have to be just to even get above that minimum, but yes, that is the only fee that we have.
We're gonna be running out of time here, Mandy, so can we do a quick survey on the interest of the members of the committee if they want to go to step 2?
Very
Renee?
interested.
Very interested? And Richard?
Yeah.
Bob?
I would want to nail down more of the cost in it.
Yeah.
It does
A little
have
bit more of
the,
understanding.
it's got it listed. We're not committing to anything other than going to step 2.
Okay.
Bob, are you interested in continuing the idea of developing it? Okay, Bob's interested. Becky, you're a go. Jack, I know you're interested already. Just so you have an answer, kind of, Mandy, that we are interested in step 2.
Yeah, awesome. That's super helpful. And then I can just report back to my board, and then we'll just wait for more of the official paperwork side to happen. It sounds like March or April, so.
Just out of curiosity, are you guys involved in any fundraising, those kind of things, monies?
Oh yeah, of course, yes. I mean, our world is philanthropy. what I would say is I definitely, for myself, I have probably a better expertise for Minnesota, especially Southeast Minnesota, maybe not as well versed in the Wisconsin side, but we are working with the Friends of Trempealeau Parkland, which is in Trempealeau, Wisconsin. And I could connect, if you guys are looking for some fundraising ideas, I could definitely connect you with a couple folks there. And maybe Jack's already connected to them. So I apologize if he is, but.
Oh, good.
Any input that you have, Jack, that you want to put in as far as the idea?
No, I think it's honestly, it's going to be good to kind of, get a handle on some of this, but still letting things play out. Like over March and April are going to be super important for us. So I'm excited to kind of take a step back and think about planning more strategically.
And the 501c is what I really like, that we don't have to formate that and make that and wait so we can start collecting money.
Yeah, and real quick, Jack did mention this. We do have 3 investment pools. And so even though there is a fee, we also invest dollars so that they're earning some money. One of them is just interest bearing. So, it's no risk. You always get interest. And then there's some more riskier stock market investments that, depending on how long the money will be sitting there, I could make a recommendation. It didn't sound like it would be sitting there very long. So I think Jack and I agreed that interest bearing probably made more sense. But that's another benefit of working with us, is that because we manage so much money, we pool it all together, we can earn a little money on money instead of letting it sit there not earning anything. And I work for I'm on the board of Friends of Whitewater State Park. What's that?
We're just going over some of the interest. We apologize for the sub-meetings, but we're just trying to get some of the ideas put together, Maddie. So we're basically interested. We'd like to specifically continue on with the relationship. Is there anything you want to summarize with? Because we will have to get off the air here.
Yeah, no, we're good. Thank you so much for having me.
I appreciate
you.
it. Sorry for the long wait.
Yeah, thanks for sticking around.
Yep.
No worries. Have a great rest of your meeting.
All right, thank you. Jack, is there anything you need to summarize before we go through the next
Nope.
meeting?
Yep, let's get this other group in here.
Okay, tentatively, it's a March 3rd. Is there any challenges or developments that we have to adjust to for the next meeting, which is scheduled for March 3rd at 8:30 in the morning here at the county boardroom?
I just might be online.
And that's quite all right. And if there's a lot of crying in the back room, we're okay with that too. You bet. All right. Any other additional stuff? If not, we will adjourn. Thank you, everybody.